Oh, hello, and welcome to Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
And I'm Dr. Leviathan.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories most creepy and most pasta. Tonight we've got NoEnd House. So for those of you tuning in for the first time, creepypasta are scary stories on the internet, very similar to campfire stories. The name comes from stories that were copied and pasted across the internet and got slanged into copypasta, and the scary ones or the creepy ones are called creepypasta. So this one was also kind of suggested indirectly to us, or at least I was perusing some YouTube channels that do creepypasta, and found a top 10 underrated creepypastas, and had a listen and read or watch of it, and this one kind of just popped to me. So I decided to give this one a shot for this week.
Force it on me?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. So, NoEnd House starts off with a guy, which is almost like a disclaimer, saying that his friend is a drug addict. And then...
Yeah, which kind of has no point.
Yeah, he has a habit of drug abuse, and then kind of goes into, they were friends during college until he dropped out, and then they were still friends online and stuff, but he was a flake, so he'd, be weeks without notice, talking to him on Skype or whatever the chat was at the time. And the one day he comes on to the chat and actually starts a conversation saying, it's like, hey, dude, have you ever heard of this place called NoEnd House? There's a $500 reward, but it's super scary. I freaked out. Or, you don't want to go into it. So the guy, of course, being a post-college graduate, needs the money and wants to give this a go, and doesn't believe this friend when he says that not to go in it and whatnot. So it's very close to his house. It's 4 kilometers, I believe, or 4 miles from his house, he says in the story.
Regardless.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And he drives out there and walks in, and it's almost I guess it's like a manor or something. There's a home. The main entrance is a lobby with a desk and stuff. But he goes into a room with one on it, and then it's just kind of normal and your fanfare. He goes into the second one. It's a little bit more added on. There's a fog machine stuff. And then he goes to enter the third room, and he kind of gets this weird feeling, but he goes in anyway. And it's just this plain room with a chair in the middle, but the shadows are all wrong, and it freaks him out and terrifies him. And apparently this guy has had a habit of hallucinating when he was a child, so he felt that kind of same thing. So he apparently does some steps that he did when he was a kid when he was hallucinating to open the door. I think he shut his eyes and then turned and went back or something like that.
No, he just looked away and
oh yeah,
he looked at the door. He turned around, looked at the door because he's because it freaked him out. He didn't do anything particular. He just went about it
okay.
He was freaked out, but
yeah. All right, but and then he.
It's not like he was okay, I got to do what I did when I was 5. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So he goes to the fourth room, and it's essentially a sensory deprivation chamber because it's all the light has been removed out of this room. The door closes behind him, and he can't see himself. He can barely hear himself.
That's exactly what I thought. I was people pay good money for this sensation.
Yeah.
What I wouldn't give for an hour of this a day.
Yeah, and so he starts freaking out because of that, and he thinks that there's something in the room with him, and so he's just trying to find a door, and he finds the door, and he goes into the fifth room. The fifth room is a forest. There are trees and foliage, and there's bird sounds and insect sounds, and you can't even see the ceiling.
It's a forest except for the floor.
Yeah.
It's the same flooring as throughout the house, which... That was actually a really cool image.
I know, right? Yeah.
I've tried to imagine it, and I'm just like... So are the trees in pots and shit? They just, like, growing out of the floor? Because, I mean, one, okay, it doesn't really look like a forest, and the other one should get more of a reaction out of you.
Yeah.
Just
I know, yeah, I know.
Personal opinion, right? Like,
I'd be walking into that, I was like, is this like the greenhouse of the house? But is it potted? Like, they don't mention that?
No,
it's
not stated. I'm assuming that they're just growing out of the floor, but
yeah, that's the imagery I got.
He doesn't give you the right reaction for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's messed up.
Yeah. And as he goes further into this forest room, he starts hearing animals and bugs and stuff like that, but he doesn't see anything. And then he starts getting bitten by bugs. And then at this point, he also says,
crawling on him. He doesn't get bitten by anything.
They're just crawling. Oh, I thought it was mosquitoes.
Yeah, but they're just crawling on him.
Okay.
As they're mosquitoes, but he never sees them, so for all we know, they're millipedes.
That's true. And he also notes that at this point that he's not a druggie and he's never done drugs. So this is all this is happening for reals, guys. And so he starts seeing, feeling these insects crawling all over him, but he can't see them, and it's freaking him out because he doesn't like bugs. And so he drops and crawls around to try and get them off, and he eventually finds the next door. Room 6 is identical to room 3, but with the right shadows. But now there's no doors. Like, even the one behind him that he just came through no longer exists. There's just these walls. And so, in his kind of creeped out state, he starts scratching at the walls, trying to find a door. And he's just scratching and scratching. And then suddenly he hears a little girl's voice behind him saying, "Are you okay?" And he turns around in shock, and he wishes he hadn't, because he sees a little girl in like another nice dress and stuff like that. But then in the same space as she is, there's this like demon creature. Which is just kind of what I got out. And there's a description of it, but that's essentially what I felt.
Yeah, he goes on for a long time trying to make sure you get it when I got it right away, and I was just like, okay, shut up.
Yeah, exactly. And then it and she starts saying, like, warning him, like, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have come here, like, just constantly repeating it. And he even says his name, like David. So we know who the character's name is now. Totally flips out. Tries to get out of this room. Like, eventually finds etched in the wall a rectangle like a door, and goes for it and pushes out of it, and he's out. He turns around and he's out of the front door of this house. So at this point, he's just done. Like, he gets into his car, drives home, walks up to his room, goes to get a shower going on. Thinks it's weird that his cat Baskerville freaked out at him when he came in, but he's not paying that any mind. And then he goes down to the living room, and there are his parents, horribly mutilated and dismembered. Like, their limbs are separated and lying beside them, and their heads are on their chests, staring at him and smiling. A very unnerving scene. So he freaks out at that, but then he also notices there's a door that was there that wasn't there before, and as he approaches it, the heads start smiling wider, and like it sounded like the hands started like crawling toward him. So he's just trying. At this point, he just bolts to the door to get away from that whole scene, and he enters room number 8. Which has a duplicate of himself sitting on a chair like the one in room 6 and 3, whimpering before him, asking him not to kill him. Just over and over again, like, don't hurt me, don't kill me. And he's just sitting in the chair, and he's like, well, this guy's exactly like me, this is really fucked up. It's exactly the same, wearing everything except for there's a patch on, like a rectangular patch on his shirt with the number 9. And then David notices there's a knife under the chair, and he picks it up, and there's a note on it saying, "To David from management." So he kind of figures out what he has to do. He doesn't want to do it, but he figures out what he wants to do. And then this other version of him gets up and gets angry and like attacks him, and eventually David stabs David, or David with the 9 on it, and blackness fills the room, and the real David is now floating in dark space, and he's there for like an eternity, and sounds like it. And then suddenly, there's almost like a light at the end of the tunnel, and he's suddenly has ground under him, so he walks to it, and he's in the lobby again. And this time there is a envelope on the desk of the lobby. Goes to pick it up. It has his name on it. Looks at it. There's a letter congratulating him for going through NoEnd House, and then giving him $500. So he just starts laughing uncontrollably all the way into his car, all the way to home, all the way till he gets home, and then even as he notices that there's a small 10 on the door. And then he opens the door, and the story ends. About there. So
he hasn't even opened the door.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's a 10 there, and so that's NoEnd House. Had a lot of really cool visuals in it. I really did enjoy it.
It was well described.
Yeah, wasn't too scary. I mean, it was.
Oh God, no! It was actually really bland.
Yeah.
As far as I was concerned, I was reading it and I was like, okay, I'm not.
It was a very.
I don't get what his panicky deal is here.
Yeah, no, like he just described that he suddenly gained a. Sorry, it's good. He just described like that he'd have like a sudden sense of dread as soon as he like saw the room, or he saw it, but like nothing actually like evoked that. Like it was just something that would just appear in his mind. It was a very dreamy, like almost like dream or nightmare logic kind of thing, where like you know that you're supposed to have that kind of thing, so you have that thing.
And even when he described like, scary things, I was just like, meh.
Yeah. I mean, like, some of them they weren't really none of them were really scary at all, except the little girl, little girls in horror stories are generally scary, or freaky.
Not to me.
Well, not to you, but,
I don't know, there was nothing overly frightening or creepy in this whole story for me.
Yeah, but I mean, mind you, if you were David in that situation, that would be a very freaky situation. What, like, you're going from room to room, and like reality is changing around you. Like that doesn't okay, fair enough.
It's not. Okay, like when room 7 is it where he wakes up or where he goes home and has a shower and then goes down and his parents are dismembered and then he sees the door. It's like, okay. That would almost be terrifying if that door wasn't saying he's still in the house. Yeah. Like, because they do describe it's like, what had happened? Like, I was gone, and then I don't even live with my parents anymore. And so it's just like... Like, that's right not
there.
Scary, because it's BS.
Yeah.
Like,
But if that door had not been there, that would have been so much creepier.
Maybe.
Because or if it had left right there, because I don't know.
No, because it couldn't leave right there because there's still 2 fucking rooms left.
Fair enough. Okay.
It wasn't. I was like, okay, you have to know you're still in the house, and you have to know that those aren't your parents. And then after that, in room 8, he's got to stab himself. But again. After seeing what clearly wasn't his parents...
That's clearly not you.
That's clearly not you. What would have been better is if they had something different in room 8 and his mother sitting on the chair in room 9.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, room 7 and 8. Yeah. You know the rooms I meant.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
because then it's like, okay, is this somehow really my mother? Because, you know, like, I don't know. I think, honestly, I think dead relatives would have worked better earlier
spaced
in the
across the rooms.
well, earlier in the house.
Yeah.
Because he's already, well, experienced, like, far beyond the, you know, okay, this is going to sound like I have just no heart, but after the mundane horror of, you know, dead parents mutilated and dismembered on your living room floor, compared that to a room of forest, it is actually pretty mundane. You know, I was in a room that was a forest earlier, so I'm not really surprised
I couldn't find the walls or the ceiling of this room. I was in another world, and then suddenly I was out of it, and now I'm back in the real world. And oh shit, my parents are dead. That's not. It's a little bit more grounded in reality. Is what that is.
If they had tried to play that card before going to surreal land,
yeah,
it might have worked.
Like maybe,
but
yeah.
Just the order, like, you know, I'm in a room of, you know, complete blackness where I can't even hear me alive.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, that's not an experience you can get in the real world. So clearly, the laws of reality are not working for him, like, where he is.
Yeah.
He's got to know that. You've got to know that. The reader sure as hell knows that. And I mean, you know, throughout the next couple, and then, oh, dead parents. Like, I'm not Bruce Wayne. Doesn't work on me.
Yeah.
You know, like, yes, dead parents. Oh, trust me, that's shitty.
Yeah. Especially if they're, like, still smiling, staring at you. Like, that would be freaky as hell.
Yeah. But it would have been a lot worse had it have been before the clearly not grounded in reality shit.
Yeah. Like,
just my opinion.
No, yeah, I can understand, like, if you want, like, I mean, they could have, like, had him go through, like, the first couple of, like, maybe the first two things or something like that, or have it, like, be mundane almost the entire time, and then, like, on one of the, like, later doors, he opens it up, and he's back in the lobby, and he figures he's done, and then he goes home, and then that happens, and then realizes he's not out of the house yet. And then that's when it kicks off.
That should have been where it got elevated to no longer following the rules of reality.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that should have been the starting point.
It's just, it escalated.
It also became more personal to him.
Fast, and then, well, yeah, but it didn't follow the rules of escalation. It tried to go back and forth because, you know, when you try to get personal after you've already shown that, you know, you're not real or that reality doesn't matter to you, it's like, okay, well, those clearly can't be my parents because you don't have to follow reality in this realm.
Yeah.
You know, and then the next room. Well, I just saw my parents mutilated on my living room floor, so I'm pretty sure I can stab myself.
Yeah.
You know? I gotta do what I gotta do. Theoretically, after 9 rooms of this shit, I'm gonna be done, and I'm gonna get to go home.
Presumably. And even if you're not, well. But I mean, just showing, like, his, like, mental state of this through, like, from the start of the weirdness to, like, this point. Like, I mean, you're saying that, like, oh yeah, like, dead parents wouldn't be a problem, or I mean, it would be a problem, but it wouldn't, I mean, like, you'd be able to figure out that it's not real and some of that. That's a logical mind. I mean, this guy is starting to get more and more paranoid, more and more frantic as the story went on. So, I mean, he may not be thinking straight.
Yeah, but
us as a reader
I just don't understand why he is.
Maybe he is on drugs and he's just been lying the whole time. But yeah, no, there was definitely, like, I mean, I liked the house was very nightmarish in terms of its, like, the scenery and stuff like that. And I liked how I did kind of like how it was personalizing against him. Like it gave the house almost like a personality. Like it made it it was trying to torment him specifically.
I hear you, but
And it seems to be doing that. It does that for every person.
It also seemed like it took, when it started doing that, it seemed like it took a step back because of, like, just the scale of what it had done before.
Yeah, like, I mean, you went from, like, deprivation to creepy demon child to forest. Or, sorry, forest to demon child.
And then all of a sudden you start getting, like, personal, and I'm just like... It just seemed illogical for the house to be to progress in that manner.
Yeah.
Also, I get the distinct impression that this house doesn't let people go.
No. Yeah, I don't think this...
So how did his friend fail?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, huh. I think we just found a plot hole.
Oh, I didn't find it. It's sitting right there in front of you. Like...
Maybe it doesn't like druggies. It's like, no, we'll let you go. You're unclean.
But you know what I mean. Yeah. Like, there's no explanation for that.
Yeah, it's the same thing that you get with like a lot of horror stories where it's like a friend of a friend of a friend told me this, and it's like, well, if they didn't, if that person, and then the story revolves around somebody who didn't escape.
Yeah, but if it's a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, it's an urban legend. Because odds are, a couple of those people don't even exist.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
yeah.
With this, it's like direct communication between two people.
Well, here's the thing. What if here's something I posed to you. He talked to his friend over chat.
Unimportant. Not stated that it's not the friend.
I know.
You are led to believe. I can only go with the facts I have.
Okay.
You are led to believe that his friend tried the house and failed. You are never, at no point is it hinted that that's not his friend.
All right. I'm just saying, like...
I know what you're saying, you're saying it without any evidence.
Fair enough.
So, there's no grounds for reasonable doubt on that.
Okay.
What it is that his friend tried it, his friend failed.
And yet, this house seems to want to keep... its victims. So, the other thing, it was definitely a very formulaic story too. Like I've seen, even when I was reading it and listening to it on Mr. Creepypasta's site, I was finding it was like I was being able to pick out tropes, like all the tropes, like the fact that the main character goes to this place after being told by somebody who had experienced it. A lot of the things you get in haunted house stories, but I mean, it doesn't really detract, but it's just something that I noticed when I was reading it, was that has a very formulaic horror haunted house kind of story build.
You say formulaic, I say it uses what's tried and true.
Yeah. Well, and like I said there, formulaic isn't a bad thing. It's just like that. Just something I noticed when I was reading it. It's like, oh, okay, so it's one of these kind of stories where the house is actually actively trying to mess with the character. I don't know. It's just something I noticed, and so I took note of it.
Yeah, but when you say it, you make it sound like a bad thing.
What?
When you use the word like trope and formulaic, it sounds like a bad thing. Whereas, to me, it was just going with a proven method. Which, sounds a lot, well, to me, anyway, sounds a little less, attacky.
Okay. A little bit less negative connotations to it? Okay. Well, what did you think of the writing for it? Like, was it well written?
Yes and no. Guy paints a picture with words really well. I could see a clear image every time. I can't remember, was it last week's where all you got was generic visualization?
Yes, it was.
This is the exact other side of that coin. This is just clear image. I'm sure you and I were seeing two very different things because that's how it works, but I was seeing very distinct, very clear images for everything.
Yeah.
And it flowed in my mind very much like a movie. And it was wonderful for that.
Mm-hmm.
It also got a little, okay, I get it. Stop kicking the dead horse. It's not going to give you another mile.
It's, it's really helpful with the details on it.
Yeah, almost to its detriment, really, because I was just kind of like, okay, I get it. Move on to the rest, move on to the next bit.
Yeah.
I'm done here. I don't
need a new room,
need it.
next room.
But it's still fucking describing it, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah.
Or it's finished describing it, and it says something happens, and it goes back to describing what you already saw. Get enough. I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
It just, it wasn't... Sometimes it just wouldn't shut up.
Fair enough.
Kind of like me.
Now this one, like I said, I got it. I grabbed it off of a YouTube video of top 10 underrated pastas, and I'll put it in the description who I got it from. It just escapes me right now. I actually did some more further looking into it. I didn't read any of the other ones, but there's apparently 3 or 4 sequels to this that other people have written, and not the same guy, or maybe it is the same guy, but there's been a couple of them that were...
I certainly hope that they are the same guy, just because...
Oh!
If it was someone else, it won't be as good.
Yeah.
Odds are, anyway.
Yeah.
Because there are just more people writing these things that, suck, at least as far as what you've, put on my plate to read. So, this guy's good. So if other people are writing this idea, well, they're not going to be as good, probably.
Yeah. You never know. They might be. But, 9 times out of 10. That's not true, but... I don't know. Like I said, they may be written by the same guy. They may not be. I didn't go into that much detail. I just took note of it for the end of this.
Then why'd you bring it up?
Because the show that there is, again, another legacy thing. Because that's what a majority, some of these stories end up generating more, stories based off the same thing. Yeah, there's not a whole lot else other than that. There's the weird... It was just the weird thing about the guy just noting that his friend was a druggie.
Well, I get why you know it. I don't get why it was mentioned.
Yeah,
it really seems to have no bearing on
the
story.
The only reason he tries to explain it in the story that the reason why he's bringing that up is because his friend's a druggie, so he's not going to believe him that this house is haunted. Because he was probably just high when he went in.
Or he could just be a skeptic.
Your
friend doesn't have to be on drugs for you to not believe him.
That's true. That's another way to take it.
I don't believe most of the shit you tell me. And so far as I know, you have never done an illicit drug in your life. So...
Yeah. Keeping that record. Okay, yeah, so he could have taken the different road. And done just the guy's a skeptic, so he didn't believe his friend when he said, "Oh man, there's this crazy haunted house in the end of town that is
which
offered."
To me says it didn't need to didn't need to be there.
Yeah,
I don't know why it's there. It makes no sense to me. It just seems like more information than I need.
Yeah. Well, this story is all about giving you a ton of information, or at least descriptions of everything.
Yeah, but you don't get information, really.
You get information of the details of the rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's details. You don't get information.
That's the same thing.
No, it's not. Because information would be, where does this guy work? What was his major in college?
Those are
what
still
are
details.
His parents? No, that's information about the individual. The walls are green is not information. That's details. My friend is a drug addict. That's information about the friend. not the surroundings.
So details are just descriptive information.
Yes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's helping you paint the picture. His friend being a drug addict does not help me paint a picture.
Fair enough. Okay.
Because he's not in the goddamn story.
Yeah, he's not at all. Like,
if it had have been, like, if this had have been, you know, his friend, the heroin addict, his run through the house, then I could understand that. Because, you know what? Now I could just be like, okay, bam, he looks like a heroin addict.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, I didn't need it.
Fair enough. Yeah, kind of like how we didn't really need the information for, I mean, I suppose, I mean, it was nice to have, but I mean, like, we really didn't need the information about, like, oh, my cat, whose name is Baskerville, by the way. Yeah, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, things like that. They're just, like, thrown out there for no real reason. Just didn't get it.
Yeah, alright. Would you recommend this one?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, all of its problems, you know, they're still there, but I enjoyed the read. Honestly, I think it really should have just gone through...
Again, another draft.
A harder editing, just because it's fairly well written, so it kind of feels like it was edited.
Yeah.
But I feel like it should have gone through a harder edit to try and, you know, scrape off more of the rough edges and whatnot. Just kind of sand it down a little bit in places. Like, the cat. I mean, you don't need the cat's name.
I don't even
You don't
really
even need the cat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it was kind of like...
The fact that it hissed
like
at him, you knew he was still in the house at that moment. So
it was a foreshadow or to what was to come, but it was also a blatant foreshadow. Like, it was, like, for the reader, it was like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're still in the house. And, I mean, I didn't even have to check the scroll bar on the side of the screen to know that I wasn't done yet.
Yeah.
Because, yes, sometimes I do that when these things drag on. I'm just like, fuck, when are you going to be done?
Yeah.
But that being said, those moments in this one are, well, for me, they were kept to a fair minimum, to the point where I was still enjoying myself. This actually felt like, almost like one of the later Hellraiser movies, where, you know, you're following a person and they're in hell. Just kind of a fun little thing. So, yeah, on that level, it was kind of extra fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely recommend it because I just liked the imagery it created, like, for you, like, to go from room to room and stuff. And I do like how, I mean, the escalation was a little zigzaggy.
Yeah.
But it did have, the overarching, idea for the story was very interesting to me. Like, the whole, like, he's not getting out of this. Like, he's hoping, like, praying, practically, but...
Yeah.
It's one of those stories where, you know, like by the end, it's like,
well, and then when he gets
there.
home and, you know, there's the 10 in the door, or on the door, and it's just like, that was, because throughout the majority of it, I was like, man, this is like, right out of Hellraiser Inferno, where, you know, you just keep going, and every time you think you might be done, you're fucking not.
Yeah.
And every time you think you might have a grasp on the situation, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And then, you know, to get home and you see the 10 there, and I was just like, wow, it really just is like the end of a Hellraiser movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. You know, like, all of the things I've pointed out, yes, they were there, yes, they bugged me. But at the end of the day, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, you know,
that's why we have these discussions.
To have so many flaws, but to still be enjoyable, that's great. What I would like to see in general is something like this, where it actually got cleaned up and was just, you know, had those edges smoothed and
Yeah.
You know, just better.
Yeah, if it was like somebody had gone in and like done a little bit more retooling, or not retooling, but reworking on it, like
yeah, just recognizing what needs to be there and what doesn't need to be there, realizing, okay, I put this in for me, so I'm gonna take it out because I'm not writing this for me.
Yeah,
you know, like I put it in there because I'll get a chuckle out of it later when I edit. But then you edit it out.
yeah, and maybe sometime we'll like a couple of episodes, like maybe down the road we'll take a look at the sequels for this one, just to see what happened. I know you're shaking your head, but we will probably end up doing that. So yeah, we both recommend it. You can check it out at creepypasta.wiki. It's NoEnd House. NoEnd is one word.
For some reason.
Yeah. I checked it out also on the YouTube channel of Mr. Creepypasta. He does a beautiful 40-minute video or audio reading of it.
God,
with
really?
music, with creepy music, sound effects, everything, the whole shebang. It sounded amazing. And yeah, give it a shot if you haven't been spoiled enough by our discussion.
Some of them, with our rundowns, we ruin everything.
And then sometimes
because basically the story is exactly what we said, but for this one, we can't convey the imagery that was, set up for you. So
yeah, you can't simply like listen to us and not read this and not have the same and get the same thing. Like if you read this, you'll get so much more out of it.
Yeah, it's there's obviously no comparison between our rundown and actually reading this.
Yeah, exactly.
So even if you're a constant listener and you're like, well, you know what, I don't feel like reading this, fine. For other ones, this one, go read it. It was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Or at the very least, go listen to it. Because again, there's several readings of it online. If you don't feel like reading, which I mean, if Audible has taught us anything, people would just as much like to listen to something being read than to read. And yeah, we are on iTunes and we are on YouTube as well at Dente And if you liked what you heard, leave us a comment in the YouTube comments, or send us a review on iTunes. Leave us a comment anywhere you're listening to this podcast, or you've acquired this podcast.
Or if you've read one of the one of the other NoEnd House stories, and you think that I'm completely off my rocker, not wanting to read them, tell me your opinion on that.
Yeah.
Let me know which ones are worth my time, because, honestly, I can't confirm that they're written by the same guy, so I cannot say that I should read them.
Yeah. And you can send that email or message to our email at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us other suggestions for show material, like other pastas and whatnot. And tell us how we're doing on the show. Why not? So, until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
And I'm Dr. Leviathan.
And this has been Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well.